Good morning and welcome. My name is Alex Oddie, and I'm the National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I'd like to start by introducing today's speakers and notable attendees. We have with us today Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico and Senator Rick Scott of Florida, who is joining us by phone. We are incredibly grateful to them for introducing the RIDE Act, which we will celebrate today. Also joining us is Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan, who on March 23rd introduced a similar bipartisan measure in the House, the HALT Act, and a true champion of the life-saving legislation that these two bills will require on all new passenger vehicles. We also have with us today Rena Abbas Taylor, sister of Rena Abbas, who was killed along with her husband Isam and their three children, Ali, who was 13, Isabella, who was 12, and Giselle, who was 7, in a horrible drunk driving crash 2 years ago, and for whom the HALT Act is named. Also speaking today is Dr. Deanna Wathington, board member for Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety and Executive Vice Chair of the American Public Health Association. Also in attendance, we have Kim Snyder, Executive Director of the Shingo Institute, who will be available for technology-related questions. Helen Whitty, immediate past MAD National President, is also joining us today and will be available for questions. Today is a historic day. Today, Senator Lujan of New Mexico and Senator Scott of Florida introduced bipartisan legislation in the U.S. Senate that could virtually end drunk driving in America. The Reduce Impaired Driving for Everyone Act, or RIDE Act, would require car manufacturers to install drunk driving prevention technology as standard equipment in all new vehicles. A similar bill, the Honoring the Abbas Family Legacy to Terminate Drunk Driving, or HALT Act, was introduced in the House last month by Representatives Debbie Dingell of Michigan, David McKinley of West Virginia, and Kathleen Rice of New York. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, advanced drunk driving prevention technology in all cars would save 9,400 lives every year and spare the tens of thousands of people the agony of losing a loved one or being seriously injured because someone was able to get behind the wheel while impaired by alcohol. On July 2nd of 2010, I nearly lost my life because of someone else's choice to drink and drive. I was 13 years old when a drunk boater slammed into me at more than 60 miles per hour while I sat on a jet ski behind my dad's lake house on Lake Harrington in Danville, Kentucky. I suffered severe, life-threatening injuries from head to toe, including a severe traumatic brain injury, a broken neck, and the loss of my right leg below the knee. It didn't take long for me to know that I wanted to be the last little girl this would ever happen to. I know almost 11 years later that I wasn't. In fact, 2 years ago, on January 6th of 2019, a horrific drunk driving crash claimed the lives of an entire Michigan family less than 5 miles from my home in Kentucky where I'm sitting now. It is for the Abbas family that the HALT Act is named, and we will hear from their family in just a few moments. On behalf of MAD and the nearly 1 million victims we have served over the last 4 decades, I want to genuinely thank Senator Lujan and Senator Scott for your bold leadership in the Senate and for your work to save lives and prevent the lifelong pain that is endured by so many of us. To Representatives Dingell, McKinley, and Rice, thank you for your leadership on the HALT Act in the House. Since MAD's founding in 1980, drunk driving deaths have fallen by more than half. But this violent, 100% preventable crime continues to kill more than 10,000 people every year and injure more than 300,000 more. It is time to put new, existing technology in cars to prevent drunk and drug drivers from killing or injuring anyone. This must be a national priority. Thank you again, Senator Lujan and Senator Scott, for making this your priority. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Senator Lujan.
Well, Alex, thank you so very much. And it's an honor to be with you today, with Rena, with everyone that's on this call today, with Senator Rick Scott, with Representative Debbie Dingell, as well as we discuss the Reduce Impaired Driving for Everyone, the RIDE Act, which I am proud to introduce today with Senator Rick Scott of Florida. Again, the work that Representative Debbie Dingell has done in this space, always been a leader before she was a member of the House, and me being able to call her a friend and a mentor with the HALT Act. This legislation is the culmination of the hard work and determination of the advocates on the call this afternoon. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD, Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety, and so many others today that made it possible. This also includes my friend and mentor, Senator Tom Udall of New Mexico, who also introduced this legislation last Congress. Now, while you'll hear from Rena later, for many of us, this RIGHT Act is personal. I don't talk about this much, and I shared it with the advocates when we had a chance to talk, but back in the summer of 1992, I was less than about half a mile away from home, and I saw two headlights coming right at me, no time to react, and a drunk driver hit me head on. Now I'm here to still share this story with you today. So many of our loved ones are not. Now, that accident and that head-on collision forever changed my life. I got lucky. I'm here to tell that story today. Now, my heart breaks for the families who weren't as fortunate. Drunk driving has brought pain into the homes of too many New Mexicans, people across America, in every community. We've mourned the loss of loved ones due to a drunk driving accident. And those who have survived these terrible accidents still live with that trauma and pain. But Congress can take action. We can do something about this. And that's why we've introduced the RIGHT Act, to prevent drunk driving and save thousands of lives per year. By deploying cutting-edge alcohol detection technologies and requiring auto manufacturers to implement this technology in new car models, the RIGHT Act will help keep our roads safe and prevent needless deaths. There is an urgency to pass this legislation. New Mexico has one of the highest rates of drunk driving fatalities, and a recent study found that New Mexico is second in the nation for dangerous drivers. This has to change. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety found that more than 9,400 drunk driving deaths could be prevented each year if drunk driving prevention technology is made standard on every new vehicle. And that's exactly what the RIGHT Act sets out to do. Moving forward, this legislation is a bipartisan priority, and I look forward to continuing to work together to make the RIGHT Act a reality for all Americans. Thank you, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Senator Lujan. And I don't even know if you remember this part of our conversation when we first met, and I'm going off script a little bit, but you shared your story with me. And at the end of the call, you said, Alex, you're the only one who's going to understand this, but I still see headlights in my nightmares. And it almost makes me emotional to think about that conversation with you changed everything for me, because I called our team after and I said, he gets it. He gets it. And I'm so thankful for you and so thankful for that conversation, because it really did change the trajectory of this for me, because I know that you get it and I know that you're with us, and I'm so thankful for that. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Scott.
Thanks, Alex. Well, first off, it's a real honor to be with all of you today. Clearly, the safety of our communities should be all of our priorities. Drunk driving, as we all know, is a leading cause of death on America's roadways, deaths that are 100% preventable. You hear tragic stories like those of families joining us here today. They're absolutely heartbreaking. In the last little over a year ago, I lost two of my friends that were going back to the airport, and a drunk driver killed them. And you just, you know, as a father and a grandfather, I can't imagine the pain, suffering, loss that, you know, that family and all families endure. In my family, I've got a relative who struggles with substance abuse. We all have to get this figured out, and we can do it. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to bring back all the victims of drunk driving, but there's something we can do in Washington right now to prevent it from happening in the future. I'm proud to join Senator Lujan and Congresswoman Dingell, Congressman McKinley, and Congresswoman Rice as we work to make sure a tragedy like the ones we all hear about never happen again. Our bill, the RIGHT Act, promotes the research and development of drunk and impaired driving prevention detection technology and creates a clear path forward to require the technology in new motor vehicles. It's long overdue. If it was implemented in all vehicles, this technology, as we heard, would save thousands of lives every year and save thousands of tragic stories that we all have to live with. It's thousands of lives, thousands of stories every year. So this legislation is a positive start to begin a much-needed conversation about how we can achieve this goal. I look forward to working with all the stakeholders on both sides of the aisle. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is an American issue. And I look forward to working with everybody to prevent future tragedies. I think it's important that we all say to ourselves, we're not going to stand by and watch more innocent people be killed by these irresponsible actions of others, and have to live with the people that, fortunately, like you heard the stories of people that survived, but we know too many stories of people that don't survive. So I look forward to working with each of you to stand up for the safety of all of our families, and I'm proud to join with my colleagues today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Scott. I have not yet had the privilege of meeting you in person, but I am so excited to do so and so thankful that you're a part of this. Now we'll hear from Congresswoman Dingell, who within weeks of the drunk driving crash that killed the Abbas family proposed groundbreaking legislation that over the last 2 years has been refined to reflect what is now included in the HALT Act.
Thank you, Alex. I can't, this is a big day for the fight to end drunk driving. And I can't tell you how good it is to be with both Senators Lujan and Scott. I miss Ben a lot in the House. I miss his wisdom. He's still my friend, but I don't see him enough. And I'm just so happy to be with you and how important it is that he's joined this fight. And Senator Scott, you can be the person that makes the difference. It isn't a partisan issue. It's a community, human, American issue. So thank you for being here. And what you're hearing from the three of us, I've never heard Ben's story, so I now have the chills having listened to it. But we're learning that no community is immune from the pain and the suffering that happens when a drunk driver takes people's lives senselessly or injures them. I remember, I'm looking at Rena, who's been a friend for a very long time. And that night, when we were all at the mosque mourning the loss of her family, they were good friends. Some of the classmates of Ali, Isabella, and Giselle, who were young and their lives were ahead of them, came up to me and in very articulate, painful, crying way said to me, "You're a congresswoman. There's technology that exists that should have stopped this. Why haven't you done something about it?" And I didn't know what to tell them. So I picked up the phone that next morning and called Ford Motor, who's from Dearborn, and said, "We're going to do something. These kids are right. What are we going to do?" Because their deaths of this family has left a hole in the hearts of all of us. And when they died, our community suffered. So that's why I'm here today. The technology does exist to save lives today. And we've got to start getting it in automobiles and on the roads and engaged to save lives. And now with both the RIDE Act and the HALT Drunk Driving Act in the House, we can work together to ensure that drunk driving prevention technology is used in vehicles. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our MAD colleagues who've been working to curb drunk driving on American roads and working on this for a very long time. Thank you for raising the awareness and pushing for change in communities across America. We shouldn't have had to wait. You don't want to wait for a tragedy to happen to make people realize that urgent action is needed. But we owe it to the thousands of victims and their families to honor their memory and to take bold action now. So I'm very grateful again to my Senate colleagues for introducing the companion bill, and I look forward to working with all of you, the advocacy groups, the industry, federal regulators, and my colleagues to finally get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Dingell, for your support and for your leadership. Now it is my honor to introduce Rena Abbas Taylor, an amazing friend and an advocate for her family and for all of us. Rena has shown incredible courage through the exhaustion and horror of losing her only sister, her brother-in-law, and her nieces and nephew. Rena, you continue to relive the worst day of your life, even when it would be a whole lot easier not to. But you do it because you want to spare others from enduring a lifetime of pain. You honor your family so beautifully by saving others with your tireless advocacy. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you, Alex. It is with deep and sincere gratitude that I join Senator Lujan and Senator Scott and all of you here today in the introduction of the bipartisan Reduce Impaired Driving for Everyone Act. I also especially want to thank Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, who from day one never paused to stand up and do what was right. Also, along with you, Congresswoman Dingell, I want to thank Congressman McKinley and Congresswoman Rice for introducing the Bipartisan HALT Act in my family's honor in the House last month. I cannot express to you how honored I am to champion the bipartisan Ride and HALT Acts alongside you. I also want to acknowledge Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, who chairs the Senate Surface Transportation Subcommittee, for his support of our family and understanding the importance of this legislation. On January 6, 2019, my world, the only one that I had ever known, collapsed. In a split second, I lost nearly my entire family because a drunk driver was able to get in his vehicle, take that vehicle onto the wrong side of the same freeway my family was driving on, and collide with them head on. Killed instantly were my sister Rena, who was my only sibling and best friend, my brother-in-law Isam, my two nieces Isabella and Giselle, and my only nephew Ollie. They were returning home to Northville, Michigan from a family vacation in Florida. The individual who killed my family near Lexington, Kentucky had a blood alcohol concentration nearly 4 times the legal limit, a level so high it is lethal. Yet he was able to operate a vehicle in his condition and senselessly wipe out the lives of 5 incredible people, an entire family. I remain unable to adequately articulate the magnitude of this horrific tragedy. There are no words, and I've come to learn no language that exists that can convey the enormity of this kind of loss. From this unimaginable pain and heartbreak was born a personal obligation that no family should ever have to suffer like ours did. Let me be clear. My family did not ask for this fight. It came crashing down on us. Sometimes we don't choose our battles choose us. I am here today in honor of my family and every family that has lost a loved one to drunk driving, hoping to continue the work of my baby sister, Rena, a physician who committed her life to saving the lives of others. It is my hope that the auto industry and all members of Congress will join Senator Lujan and Senator Scott, Congresswoman Dingell, Congressman McKinley, and Congresswoman Rice in the fight to end drunk driving once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rena, for all of your involvement and for everything you've done. And like I said, for continuing to relive the worst day of your life. I understand completely how much easier it would be to crawl in bed and never talk about it again. And so for that, I'm so thankful that you have chosen to be a part of this. Now it is my honor to introduce Dr. Deanna Wathington with Advocates and Chair of the American Public Health Association. This is a longtime safety partner, and we thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Honored to be here. I want to thank Senator Binray Lujan and my home state Senator Rick Scott for their leadership in introducing the Reduce Impaired Driving for Everyone Act of 2021, and certainly Congresswoman Debbie Dingell for her championing of the HALT Drunk Driving Act. I am also quite honored to join MAD National President Alex Ott and our fellow supporters of this legislation to urge Congress for its swift passage. As a public health practitioner and family medicine physician, I have a deep and thorough understanding of the wide-ranging and long-lasting consequences of the killer that is impaired driving. I also turn to science and data to base decisions. One of the most respected auto researchers, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, has estimated that more than 9,000 lives could be saved every year if impairment detection technology that prevents drunk driving was widely deployed. The Institute also affirmed that the fastest route to ensuring the societal benefits of the technology is through federal regulation. Just as doctors diagnose disease and implement proven treatments, the RIDE Act pinpoints the cause of approximately 30% of traffic fatalities and requires a technological solution. It takes the crucial and common sense step of directing the US Department of Transportation to require passive impaired driving prevention technology in new vehicles. By developing a minimum performance standard, the DOT will ensure that this life-saving innovation functions as needed and ensures that its benefits will be experienced equitably. As a nation, we can no longer accept that more than 10,000 people are being killed on our roadways every year by impaired drivers. A physician would never withhold medicine to treat a disease, and we cannot accept inaction on this legislation and allow innocent motorists and their families to suffer. It's time for Congress to do its job and pass the RIDE Act this year. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Deanna, and all of the speakers who have joined us today. Now we have a few minutes for questions from our speakers, as well as Ken Snyder, a technical expert who can answer questions about the technologies currently available that could stop impaired drivers from operating their vehicle, and immediate past MAD National President Helen Whitty.
Thank you all. Thank you for the media for joining today's events. We're now going to open it up for press questions. If you would like to ask a question, please click on the raise hand option at the bottom of your window. After you are unmuted, please state your name and your outlet. So at this time, if I could have the media raise your hand. You are unmuted. Rick, just unmute. Rick, you can ask your question now. Seems like Rick is having some technical difficulties, so if anyone else would like to raise your hand, we will unmute you. Seems like we don't have any other questions. Oh, we have one. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Alexander Mose.
Hi, how you doing? Rana, this is Alex Nawal's son. I'm the nephew of Abbas. I just have a question for everyone. So I work for an automotive supply company, which is ZF, which works on active braking systems for commercial vehicles. And I think that the opportunity with this is that we have to take an issue with the state level and then make it a federal legislation, because I think that the costs that are prohibitive for this to work on a national scale, you really would have to get every automotive company to agree on a centralized standard. And I mean, what is the research on this? Is there research on this? Is there a way to do this? Is it a state level? Is it a national level? I'm sorry, I'm driving now, but I'm safe. It's a hands-free, but so I guess
I'd like to interject and have Ken Snyder address this. This is Stephanie Manning, Chief Government Affairs Officer. Ken, please go ahead.
So two parts to the answer, I think, Alex. One is without a mandate, it won't happen because the automakers won't do it. They have the ability to do it now, and they've chosen not to. And if it's a state-by-state piecemeal, they can fight that on a state-by-state level, and that prolong the implementation of the technology for as long as they want to. I don't understand why they oppose it, to be honest with you, but the fact is that they do, and so it's necessary. The second thing, some of the technologies are already on vehicles. And so there is no additional cost. It's a matter of enabling the technology that's already there. Let me just give one example. This is not the only one, and I'm not the one we necessarily recommend because we think it's up to NHTSA to determine what the best solutions are. But for example, most new cars today have lane assist technology. That's based upon exterior sensors that are placed on the outside of the car that feed information to a central electronic brain. That system that tells you to scoot back into the center of your lane and don't cross over and warns you that there might be somebody in your blind spot can also sense whether or not you're driving erratically, like if you're making erratic lane changes, and can say to the car, this driver is impaired right now. You need to pull over to the side of the road and keep people safe. So there's no additional cost. It's a matter of a little bit of software code. Some of the automakers have already implemented that code on their automobiles, and all of them could do it if mandated to do so.
And Stephanie, if I could add to that as well, is just to be abundantly clear, to highlight what Ken said, this technology already exists. Car manufacturers have been working on this for years. And just think about the conversation taking place with auto manufacturers around the world, including right here in the United States. Fully automated, self-driving, autonomous vehicles. Look, if you can have a conversation about self-driving, autonomous vehicles, you can absolutely implement technology that's going to save people's lives. There shouldn't be a question about this. And so, look, this is a simple piece of legislation that fits in anything that's going to move forward with technological advances with autonomous vehicles. It's that simple.
We have one more question from Kai Porter. Kai, you are unmuted.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking my question. I'm Kai Porter with KOB Channel 4 in Albuquerque. Ken just touched on the question that I had about this technology, how it would work. I think a lot of people that are watching this might think, is it going to look like a breathalyzer that you blow into every time you get in your car? Ken, the example that you gave, is that what the bill or the legislation requires, or is it up to the automakers to decide what kind of technology to put in their car? How would this work? Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer that. The bill is tech neutral. There's a number of different technologies, and we have outlined that, and we're not sure we've got them all, but we outlined 241 different technologies that could be used in the RFI that we submitted to NHTSA when NHTSA requested it a few months ago. And it is, but we are tech neutral. It's up to the government to decide what kind of settings there should be on erratic driving. There's up to the government to decide how many head nods you need to have before the car says, this guy's asleep, we need to pull him over to the side of the road, and so on. And those are things that we should not leave up to the industry to implement and decide. We need some standardization and, to use the term of the bill, rulemaking done by the appropriate authority in government. And that's what the bill calls for.
I believe that are all the questions we have.
Alex, maybe just a reminder that there's a hearing next week in the Commerce Committee.
Yes, absolutely. And Rena will be speaking at that hearing, and we would love for any of you who would like to watch that hearing to do so. I'm sure you can get the link from any of the offices or from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We'd be happy to provide that. If there are no more questions, this concludes our event. Thank you again to Senator Lujan and Senator Scott for your leadership, and to all those of you here who are making a difference and making it possible for us to create a future of no more victims. Because of you, that future is here, and I'm so excited that we're about to reach it. So thank you all so very much.